does it mean to live by a code? Not just to know a set of rules, but to let them shape every choice, every response, and every breath you take. Throughout history, warriors and seekers and guardians of all kinds have carried creeds written in words that outlasted their voice. These words are more than promises. They are anchors in the storm, guiding lights in moments of doubt, and a compass pointing us back to who we are meant to be. Today, we'll be talking about 3 such codes and creeds and how they can impact your life in powerful, life-changing ways. I am Justin Gates. Welcome to the new Ashla Podcast. I'm joined today, as always, by my co-host, Michael.
Hey, fam.
And today, we have a special guest with us. Am I pointing the right way on the camera? I can't. No, see, on here, it's mirrored. So joining us today is Seta, a.k.a. Setanako, a.k.a. Ally. She's got 1,000 names.
Yeah, I've adopted quite a few in this community.
A lot of nicknames you've been given over the years.
I have.
You guys from my KOA days, our KOA days, me and Ally, you might remember her from there. She also works within the Jedi Federation, who we had on about a month and a half ago or so, 2 months ago. So Ally actually approached me with this show today, and she wanted to talk about these 3 particular codes. So I know all 3 codes. I had to bring Michael up to speed on a few of them because he was a sailor. He wasn't a soldier, but hold that against him.
Don't be so envious.
You know. But so, Ally, what are the 3 codes you wanted to talk?
So I wanted to talk about, I guess kind of the order would be the Skywalker Creed.
Mm-hmm.
Or code, sorry, the Skywalker Code, which is also called the Alternative Code. That's from Star Wars. It is from the fiction, but it has inspired a number of people in our community. I also want to talk about the Soldier's Creed, and then finally an offline group called Heartland Jedi that used to be in Kentucky, and then I sort of moved it over here, and now it's sort of defunct, but we still have our creed. It's called the Heartland Jedi Creed.
That's a good one. I have always enjoyed that. It's always been one of my favorites. So before we get into those, I wanted to kind of talk about how important are codes and like their universal role. Why do we use codes and why do we use creeds? And so let's start off with that. Why do we use codes and why do we use creeds?
So I know for me, when it comes to creeds and codes, I struggled for a long time in my life trying to find a value system. So I remember being in high school and it's like I was going to be that good kid, no sex till marriage, abstain from any type of substances, alcohol, whatever. And that was what I wanted to do. And I remember getting out of high school and I broke most of those rules for myself and I was so lost. And so then I started following the 7 holy virtues. I remember being like, I need to find some kind of moral path to follow. And so I based my life on the virtues, which I realized was destructive. It's good. They are good codes to live by, but you cannot have life be all virtue or you lose yourself in it. And that's what happened to me. I lost myself trying to hold to that standard. And that's when I met you and learned about the Jedi Code, which was so pivotal for me to learn about balance and harmony and creating this exchange between these things that it's okay to be human. And it gave me self-forgiveness and it gave me self-understanding and a path ahead to make steps to be a good man instead of just someone who is constantly self-abandoning, self-sacrificing to have humility and chastity and all these things. So
yeah, it's better to be good than nice. You can be good all the time, or at least there aren't many situations where you can't be good if you are focused on being good. But sometimes you have to give up being good to be nice. You have to give up a piece of yourself, and you can be nice. But, I would rather just be good all the time. And, both of you have known me for many years, and I'm not always nice, am I? I'm not always sunshine and rainbows, because sometimes being good is more important. Should always be kind, and I don't put kind and nice in the same boat, because I can be hard but also be kind. I can't always be hard with somebody and be nice. Ally, why do we have codes? Why are they so useful to us?
So I believe So codes can have different connotations, and
Mm-hmm.
specifically the ones that we're going over, I would call are poetic codes, because they're structured in a poetic method. They feel a certain way. The energy of their rhythm feel a certain way to us, and we want to become that, especially when you say it aloud. If you're saying it aloud, like with the Soldier's Creed, I'm sure. Did you ever go to PLDC?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so PLDC, Warrior Leaders Course, for anyone that's not in the Army and doesn't have a clue what I'm talking about. It's basically a school that before you become a non-commissioned officer, that's sergeant or above, in the enlisted ranks, not the officers don't have to go through it, but in the enlisted ranks, we all go through a point where we're together and we say this creed every morning, every evening in there. And it inspires something when you're doing that with a team of people. And it's down to the rhythm, what it means to be in this group of people that say, this is what I want to do. We are a social creature as humans. We are very social. So we want to be part of that community. And when you think of, this poetic thing that's getting disseminated amongst all these people, this population, it brings people together under a common purpose, because we also crave leadership, and these can provide us leadership in a way that we can trust that more than we can trust other beings.
Yeah.
Like, I would trust my code before I trust an officer that says, "Oh, I've got your 6." No offense, officers, but I would.
No offense, LT, who's lost out nowhere somewhere.
Sorry, Al.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was a point I wanted to make. It's that sacred unity that you create with other people. Well, both of you can attest to this, because both of you went through basic training, and both of you was thrown together with a bunch of strangers. And it didn't stop there. Every place you were stationed, then you had a bunch of new strangers you had to meet. But were they ever strangers completely? Because we had these codes, we had these shared energy, really, right? Yep. And when you recite these things together, it creates that. It just creates this I don't know, like this energy. I'll just say this energy. And it's hard to be an individual when you're all collectively engaging in these codes and these creeds and reciting them together, as you said. And it really, really strengthens the bond. You guys can attest to this. When we were in, those people were like, I mean, we would do anything for them, for most of them, right? We would dig foxholes with them, and we would go to sleep peacefully, knowing that nothing was going to come happen to us, even though you're hearing the bangs and the bombs and the booms and the whatever, because that guy or girl had your back, because you went through something together. And it's really powerful when you do it, together.
Yeah, I know in boot camp we had the Sailor's Creed, and we had to say it every day.
Yeah.
And just like you said, it was sort of a unifying force, us all sort of standing on the same cause, even if we had our differences. But there was a unity to it.
Yeah, for us, we had to, at least for me, we had to recite our general orders over and over again, and if we didn't, we got punched in the head,
I couldn't recite them to you now, though.
I could not a one of them. I can't even, it's such a long time ago. But, codes
they also
and
weren't
creeds,
poetic, for the record. They weren't poetic. So
no,
it
they
was hard
weren't.
to memorize them.
Yeah, it was like memorizing an instruction manual. This is exactly how you're going to do this. And if you do it wrong, we'll kill you, type thing. But, across all recorded time and all recorded cultures, somewhere in there along the way, there are creeds, right? There are oaths or codes of honor. The soldier at night always had this vow of service, or they'll swear to chivalry, or monks live by sacred rules that they don't break. They don't sway from, that we see. And Jedi, in both the fiction and in the world with us, I always hate saying the real world. You know what I mean? It's such a weird way to say that, but they declare their code in a way that it resonates. It becomes part of their being. So these poetic declarations, they're not simply words, are they? They're like almost like anchors that start to shape our identity.
Very much so.
Is there a psychological element to this, guys?
Oh, I absolutely believe there is.
I mean, I imagine it's like repetition. One, you're ingraining it in your spirit. And when you have that kind of energy going, we talk about how the agreements, right? When we agree to something, it is this visceral agreement we make with ourselves. And the one commonality that makes an agreement stick within your spiritual being, into your bones, is how much emotion is invested when that agreement is made. And when you have a group of people saying a creed, especially in a tough time or when they're going through shared struggle, there's an extra level of it imprinting inside of your soul, I believe. And there's that association that comes with. And I would say that's more or less the psychological element. It is when you're feeling these strong emotions while stating these creeds, we are embodying them wholeheartedly. And it follows us.
Ally, what do you think? The psychological impact of this?
Yeah, no, I mean, and it really does kind of depend on the statements you're making. So that's kind of one of the things that I'm going to get into about some of the differences that I see with like the alternative creed. And you know what? We should just throw in the regular code too.
Right.
But like that and the soldier's creed and just the statements that you make when you start out, those can polarize you to this is mine.
Right.
Or this is us, depending on how you put it in. But sometimes it's really about the framework that you personally have as to, like, are you a rebel? Right. So if I'm a rebel, then maybe the community aspect of the language in there doesn't hit me the same way as if I own it and I say me. But we'll get to that. But yeah, there is absolutely some sort of psychological thing that is coded into these. And that's kind of why I believe that, like, the rhythm of it, just like a chant, can get into your soul. Words have power. Words have power.
They do. Words have power. They do. And it's interesting you pick these three, because these three mesh so very well with each other. And we'll get into that later on. But, at Ashla, we teach the three codes. We teach the old school Jedi code. We teach the Yet code. I don't remember what they call it.
Yeah, they call it the Yet code. It's the Yet code.
So we teach that first, right, to students, so that they can start to dip their toes in this really, really big set of responsibilities. Because it's, if you start, and like you and I started off with the standard code, and we read it and we're like, oh my God, this is heavy, right? And then there were thousands of debates.
I also said this is awful.
It's not a great code to start with, because you don't get to dip your toe. They just kind of throw you off the cliff and say, yeah, But so we teach the Yet code as the first code we teach. We teach the alternate code, or the Skywalker code, or whatever we want to call it, as the second code that we teach, because now that they've started to get into starting to incorporate these philosophy into their life, now we're going to start pointing them in a direction, right? And we'll get into that when we talk about that code. And I think we're going to do that one first, right? But then we teach the old school code last, because by the time you get to that, you've got some kind of context where, yes, I'm not stripping away all my emotions for peace. They both will coexist. And I've learned that through just going through it. So, but, for us, we honor creeds and these codes because they are, to us, living reminders of what we seek to serve. And eventually it becomes more than just this external rule, right? Because people think of codes and creeds as rules, but it becomes more than that. It almost mirrors our soul. And it's a way for us to find alignment with creation. And it's a way for us to learn how to serve creation in its entirety, in the best way possible, or at least we believe so. So let's just get into it. What is the alternative code, or the Skywalker Code?
So the alternative code, a lot of people will remember, there is no emotion, there is peace, et cetera, or emotion yet peace. Now, these codes were written somewhere, at least one of them was written in the 80s for a book. It was just kind of like, it was for a role-playing book, if I remember correctly. And it was just kind of thrown in there because they needed some philosophy for the Jedi so that they can make a role-playing game system that worked. So It wasn't really given a whole lot of thought. At least that's, kind of the story that's being gone into it. And it explains why it doesn't make a lot of sense. How can you not have them? But then, like, you start looking at it from the perspective of, well, that was written with a very different mindset involved. If you look at it from a Chinese mindset instead of an American Western English and language, this kind of proves language does a lot to shape who we are.
It does.
So, we look at it from those perspectives, and then you're like, oh, okay, I get it. I get what it's supposed to be doing. But from my American English mind, I can't comprehend it that way. And so that language does not fit. So later on, right around the 2000, 2001 era, I don't remember exactly when, this other code is written into the books. And it comes out around the same time that Phantom Menace comes out. And I think maybe just before whatever the second movie is. Don't ask me.
Attack of the Clones? Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
We don't talk about
those that don't know, Ally's not a fan of Star Wars, so
she's not a huge Star Wars guy. Yeah.
I'm not. So this code comes into play, and it's actually given some thought. And it's given some more thought because in the Phantom Menace, we start talking about how there is a Jedi code that we're supposed to be following. So in there, it goes, Jedi are the guardians of peace in the galaxy. Jedi use their powers to defend and protect, never to attack others. Jedi respect all life in any form. Jedi serve others rather than ruling over them for the good of the galaxy. Jedi seek to improve themselves through knowledge and training. These are very snippet things about what Jedi do. They give Jedi a purpose in the fiction and a goal. We are guardians of peace. We are bringing peace in the galaxy, not just on our planet. We are part of that whole system. You may be assigned to one planet, but we're part of that whole system. Now, granted, okay, I got some people in there probably saying, yeah, well, what's that got to do with real life Jedi? Listen, this is we know it was written for the fiction, all right? We got you. We know. But Jedi are guardians of peace in the galaxy. That was their role in that world, that
in
universe.
That era, yeah.
Yeah. They use their powers to defend and protect, never to attack. So this tells you, like, listen, you don't attack first. You don't throw the first punch. Now, is there evidence that Jedi did that? Sure. But that's not what they were supposed to do. It was what they were striving to get to that point, because we are, like, even them, they're just as human as we are. They have fallibility. So, I hear people are like, oh, well, Obi-Wan, he went after Maul and just attacked him. He didn't protect and defend. Yeah, but that's human.
He was big mad, wasn't he?
Yeah. So, that kind of shows you the human side of who he is. Like, they all have to fight through that, but that is the goal. That's what this creed is the goal of, and that's what he eventually lives up to later on. We see that progress, and I don't know how y'all feel about Disney, but I personally think that they did some good stuff with the story. Y'all can hate on me, I don't care. But, like, we see that he gets to a point where he becomes that, and it's slowly over time, but he does get there, and that's him fully becoming a master into this is what it means to be a Jedi.
So these talking about his goals. Transformation from Obi-Wan to Ben?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that show. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, that was a good show.
I love that show.
It was. It really was.
I thought you were speaking to the new trilogy.
Boy, that's a whole wasp nest we probably don't want to smack with a stick very hard, isn't it?
Those shows have been great.
Yeah, so Jedi respect all life in any form. Again, in the Kenobi series, we see that happen. We see that happen with Luke as he's coming into his own too, because that's what manifests at the very end of Vader's life, is that he was afforded that opportunity because Luke found the humanity in him found a connection with him and started to respect him and
Yeah.
gave him that opportunity at the very end. Jedi serve others rather than ruling over them for the good of the galaxy. So even if you were a politician, like, I don't know if they actually have politicians in there, but like, even if they had been politicians, the point was that they weren't ruling. They were there to serve, to give back. That's, again, a goal for a Jedi to achieve. Not just be the commander of a group, but to be in the right mindset of, I am serving these people. I'm not leading them. I am here to be of service to them so that they get home later, or ruling over them. Jedi seek to improve themselves through knowledge and training. Well, that's how you get to the other parts. Everything predicates on that last line.
Mm-hmm.
So your goal through this creed is Jedi do this. And if you are serious about it, you want to achieve it. And that kind of goes into like the language I was talking about, is you want to become that.
Yeah.
But if you're a rebel, this can also be a detriment because, or you have mental health problems. You don't feel like you're good enough. This could be a detriment. And what it says is, Jedi do that. I'm not Jedi yet. Or Jedi do that. I don't have to do this because I'm not Jedi. That's those Jedi. I'm my own Jedi. Like, I can do what I want. So
that's a really
how
good
we
point.
frame that.
That's a really good point you bring up, because oftentimes, and you and I have talked about this, Ally, many times throughout the years, we often see people not molding or shaping or growing to meet a particular set of beliefs. They will just pick it apart and make it meet where they're at. And that creates a big problem. It really, really does. And I'm sure you're thinking of the same couple of individuals that I am. Right? So that's another check mark for why codes and creeds are good, because they encourage us, they give us something to aspire to, rather than, and especially in a group setting, you can't just pick them apart, because nobody's having that. We're not having none of that, right? Nope, this is the code and take it or leave it. You don't get to pick it apart and do whatever you want. It's a really good point.
I want to sort of follow up with your question you had there. I mean, when it comes to these rebels, these people, I mean, mental health does tie into it. But it's kind of like what we've been teaching on this podcast, is we got to meet people where they're at, and people got to realize they don't have to be this level to be a part of things.
Right.
And it's really helping people be able to dissect, like, hey, I'm maybe not where I want to be, but what steps do I have to do to become the person I want to be? Because I know I spent a decade of my life constantly trying to jump from the summit to the top of the mountain, and I kept falling on my face because I kept being like, I know I can be this person, but I never took the time to be like, what little steps do I need to start taking, and how much work is it going to take for me to go from this person to this person? I think a lot of people fall victim to that. They fall so victim to wanting to be more without realizing they don't have to be more. They just have to start walking.
Yeah.
And that's why we see this as an unfolding. It unfolds in front of you, versus these are the ladder you have to climb, or these are the steps you have to take. It becomes an unfolding, because then it allows you to do the things you need to do each step of the way, and it's not a race. Things unfold as they do. And you may become a knight in 20 years, or you may become a knight in 2. Doesn't matter. They're still both at that level where they got there. And we oftentimes start at different points along the track. This is why I always say it's not a race. If it was, it wouldn't be a very fair one. So what I like about this code the most is that it's very straightforward. There isn't a lot of room for debate or interpretation, right? It's about service. This is what we do. This is what we aspire to do. It's almost instructional in a poetic way, right? And it kind of highlights these 4 anchors of what someone might say the Jedi identity is. It's to protect, it's to serve, it's to respect, and it's to grow, improve, evolve, right? So, and these aren't super lofty ideas that we can't get to. We can do these things. We can be guardians, even if it's just to protect somebody's peace for a minute, even if it's to lock a door for somebody who's being chased by somebody. You don't have to be, this big, giant, strong guy. You don't have to beat people up. You can serve as a guardian in lots of different ways. You can use your gifts and your talents to defend and protect others. We all have lots of different skill sets. Not all of them are swinging lightsabers or punching people in the face. Those are actually the worst ones to start off with.
Yep.
We can all respect life. We're a part of it. I like life. I like how things interact with me, and how if I didn't have bees, then I would probably die. But I don't like bees because if they sting me, I will die. But I still need them. I respect them. They're more important to me in the grand scheme of the world, right?
Are you sure you respect spiders?
I do respect spiders as long as they're not in my. They're not in my. Why, did you see one? Where is it? But these aren't super lofty goals. We can all serve others in big or small ways, and it's usually the smallest ways that make the biggest impact, right? So and improvement. We all need improvement. I need improvement. Everybody does. Once you get to a certain level and you think you got it, well, as you were saying earlier, Michael, about climbing those peaks. Well, you climb that peak and then you look out across the landscape and there's 1,000 more peaks. Yep. You have to go back down and then you got to go back up and up. And so I love this code for that because it's very easy to start. You don't need a lot of context to start doing these things, to protect and serve and respect and improve. So I love this creed for that. I really, really do.
I wish it had been the first one that I had been introduced to. And
yeah, me too.
Like, it's not like I didn't come in the community in 2002 after it had come out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, I'm an old fogey. Whatever.
Well, I think one thing for me hearing this
here like I do, yes, you're not that old. Once you get one of these, then you're really old.
One thing that really stuck out to me was when it talks about service. This is all ideals of becoming a Jedi, becoming a knight. But when it comes down to it, these are codes to live by as a person. Mm-hmm. When you live a life of service, so many people, entrepreneurs, people want to get on their feet, are doing it for the reasons of, I want to be seen as successful. I want to be seen as effective. And they're chasing these businesses, these goals that are not aligned with how they can really make a difference in life. There is nothing greater than service for finding fulfillment in life. And it's like this podcast. We do it. We're not making any money. We hope one day we can replace our income with this, but the reason we can just keep chugging along is because we're not doing this for the money or the fame. We're doing this because we want to touch people. We want to help people find their way in life. And it's in that service of the things we offer that we find that abundance and fulfillment that most people are chasing when they start a business. But everyone's looking for money, not for giving back to the world and trying to make a difference.
Yeah. And that's a very Jedi way to look at it, right? The way we teach this code, the way I teach this code, someday some other teacher is going to replace me and they'll teach it however they want. And I'm fine with that because we must always improve. Always, always, always improve. We teach it. We replace the word Jedi with I am, so that not only does it become a code or a creed, it becomes a mantra, right? Because, like you said, not everyone's going to want to serve the order or the temple. They just want to find a way to be better. And if they need to replace the word Jedi or Christian or Buddhist with I am, that's fine with me. That's fine with me. It's probably more powerful that way anyway, because then you don't have to worry about Justin's dogma or Ally's dogma or whoever's dogma that kind of accumulated over the years.
That's one of the reasons I like the Soldier's Creed.
Yeah.
You mentioned something earlier about how Heartland Jedi Creed ties in with these two other creeds. That was by design.
I know. I was telling Michael before you hopped on.
No.
Yeah. I told him he was in for a surprise today, because I think what I said to him was, I could tell, when you look at the Heartland Creed, you could tell that a soldier had some input into this.
3 soldiers, actually. But yes.
See, there you go.
3 soldiers.
Not 1, 3. Yeah. So, at the end of the day, this code, it really, and we'll get into these other codes, but it plays in well because it kind of balances these codes together in a way, because it focuses on responsibility. This code is telling you, look, if you walk this path, if you want to do this, you're going to be responsible for things. You're going to be responsible to uphold these ideals. And at the end of the day, you're going to be held accountable to uphold your own growth. So, guarding for us in Ashla, guarding peace is not just an outward thing, it's an internal thing. So this code is great for that, because we have to guard our thoughts sometimes and our emotions and our actions to make sure that we are as impeccable as we can be in that moment. Now, yes, you're not perfect. I don't want to make you perfect, but just do your best, right? So defending things, people, ideals, yourself without domination. You can do these things without dominating everything. And, we may protect and defend, but we don't ever do it for conquest, right? We don't attack unless we have to, but we always defend. So, because that roots us more in compassion than it does aggression. And, we have a lot of gray areas here. And, there are times where you must be aggressive. You must aggressively hold the line. You must aggressively enforce your boundaries. But if it's rooted in compassion, you're going to be better off, I think. And of course, we respect life, because everything is tied together. In all of creation, every atom of creation is bound together. And you can call that the creator, God, the force, doesn't matter. The answer is still the same. We are all connected to each other and to all things. So to respect another life form is to respect yourself. And if you can respect yourself, it shouldn't be that hard to respect others, right?
Yep.
And finally, service over ruling. I think that's kind of the biggest part of this for me. We serve as a form of leadership. And leadership is not ruling over others, right? Wouldn't you guys say?
Yeah, 100%.
I agree. Yeah.
So I love this code. I really do. And we teach it second because, like I said earlier, now you've dipped your toe in the water and there's this great big world opening up in front of you. But guess what? Now you have a purpose within it, right? This code helps us, if not give us purpose, remind us of what our purpose in our path should be. Great code.
Yeah.
That's a great code. I love it. So what's the next one?
So the next one's the Soldier's Creed. And I love this one. And I got to share, just before we get into this, I wouldn't mind if anybody started speaking it with me, but I went to a Jedi gathering one year, and we started saying this creed. Somebody started it, and everybody that knew it came together, and we were as one voice saying this creed. So that it shows you this creed it's powerful, and it has influenced people. So it influenced me in other ways, and I'll talk about that later, or helped me through things in other ways, but I'll talk about that later. But here it is. I am an American soldier. I am a warrior and a member of a team. I serve the people of the United States and live the Army values. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade. I am disciplined, physically and mentally tough, trained and proficient in my warrior task and drills. I always maintain my arms, my equipment, and myself. I am an expert and I am a professional. I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the enemies of the United States of America in close combat. I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life. I am an American soldier.
Beautiful.
There's someone out there going, damn, that sounds really martial. Yeah. It's supposed
welcome
to
the U.S. Army.
It's supposed to. That's a crazy creed for people to hear for the first time. They're like, wow. Well, it lends itself to how truly disciplined our soldiers are. Now, for you and me, we never really seen them as disciplined because we were all kind of goofing off all the time and stuff. But from the outside perspective, and I've even talked to soldiers of other countries during my time, and they are just blown, their minds are blown how effective and how sharp the spear of the United States military is. It pierces everything. And this code starts with that. It starts with that code.
Yeah, it's what effectively molds you into this. This is what you're joining. This is the fraternity, so to speak. I mean, yeah, I know I'm a woman, but whatever. This is the fraternity that
we only see green, Ally. We don't see nothing.
Yeah, that's true. We only see green. This is the greenery you are joining.
This is the greenery. That's
go.
Right.
This is the greenery that you are becoming a part of, and you will be a well-oiled machine.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was part of another service. It's not going to go named, but I will say it wasn't the Navy. It wasn't the Navy.
I won't tell anybody. I won't tell
There we
anybody.
go. So it wasn't the Navy. I will say it wasn't the Navy. But this creed, like I realized years later that this creed is one of the reasons I was not a fan of that service. And I was more than happy that I was gone from it when I did.
I respect that statement.
So, but this was a powerful creed. And actually, so I got kicked out of that service, not for my own fault. It had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with some perceptions that service happened to have about my family situation. So they were like, hey, we don't think this is a good fit for you, so we're going to kick you out. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm good with that. But I didn't have any, I was kind of screwed. They did not tell me that because I had left the Army and I had bought my leave, I couldn't do it again with this other service. So there I was, I'm going to the very end thinking I'm going to be able to buy my leave. And they were like, no, you don't get to do that. This is your last day and you're not getting any money for anything. So I left with no money in my account. Now in the commander and his XO scrounged around $300 to help us get all the way across the United States from California. And the night that I had to go the next day, and I was actually going to go out, and then I planned to meet up with Justin on our way back. I was very destitute, but I pulled up the Soldier's Creed, and specifically 4 lines out of this called the Warrior Ethos. It's the lines that are, I will always place the mission first, I will never accept defeat, I will never quit, and I will never leave a fallen comrade. And I put these on my screen because I knew that I was about to go in such a state. I went into a catatonic mode. So before I hit that, before I knew that shock was taking over, I managed to set up my laptop and I stared catatonically at those 4 lines for the better of 2 hours. And the next day I was able to get up, I was able to get in the car, and I was able to drive. That's the power this creed had in my life.
No, that's insane. I can just imagine how much it embodied in you, seeing that, having that as a grounding point through the storm.
Yeah, because in a lot of ways, nobody would have faulted you for feeling absolutely betrayed by your country, by your entire country for what happened,
Yeah, and we were effectively homeless because, even when we got across the country, our family, they were willing to help us just long enough for us to find the most base jobs we could get. And we were stuck in a trailer for 5 years that was cockroach infested because we couldn't get out of it. But that creed was there the whole time. And actually my KOA family, they were there for me too.
I threw her a party. I had a party when she got there.
Mm-hmm.
Had a barbecue.
It was so
That's
much
awesome.
fun. That said, I did find out during that party that apparently there is exactly one type of firework that will set me off. It sounded like a mortar round going off because I heard the. I thought it was gonna hit. I ran and I jumped.
Yeah, this stupid town is so. Dude, yesterday I was hearing them still blowing off fireworks behind me.
Gosh, that's crazy. They're celebrating back to school. That's what's going on.
That's what it is.
And those fireworks are illegal as hell here. Illegal. You could get busted for smuggling them in, but
Yep.
It doesn't stop them. So, Michael, what kind of stands out for you when you heard that this creed, the Soldier's Creed?
Man, the one line that really hit me the hardest was about the fallen comrade. How we want to be there for people as they fall and to support them, to show up for people and do the best you can for them. It's like you'll never know when you're going to be that person who needs that support.
Charles McBride wrote something once that I've carry with me everywhere I go. And it's, it talks about the fallen knights. And what do we do with a fallen comrade in that regard, right? This creed is talking about someone actually physically falling, and we picked them up and we never leave anybody behind. But Ally can attest to this. In this broader community, just even on the outskirts of the Jedi community and into these more chivalric communities where people have codes and they have these vows of honor and all these things. When you see one of them slip up and fall, it's sometimes like falling into a shark tank and get it eaten alive, right? So it's really important to understand, and especially for the way of Ashla and for the greater Jedi, I would feel comfortable saying this. We leave no one behind, period. And for us, in this kind of spiritual context, it's when they fall, when they succumb to darkness. We'll just say the broader idea of darkness, right? When they fall from grace, someone would say, when they sin, we don't abandon them. We don't leave them there. We go back for them. And we use these same oaths and these same creeds and these same codes to remind them, to help them back up, right? So I'm glad you picked up on that one particular spot. We leave no one behind. And all of our axioms, all of our agreements, all of our teachings point to that. Not so much directly, but it is kind of implied, isn't it? So, this code has this very, very precise and unwavering and strong rhythm, does it not? I mean, it basically...
very much so.
This is basically a love letter to every other country on Earth that says, listen, we're going to send you a postcard. It's going to say this on it. And this is basically what we intend to do if we get into a fight, right? I mean, and each line shapes and sharpens and creates the edges around a soldier. Like it just takes a lump of clay and just straight creates a soldier with every single line, and it builds upon each other. And for the soldier's perspective, it reminds us that we are not just an individual, but we are part of this greater body, this greater machine. And we're bound by these promises of loyalty and duty. And you were saying earlier, Ally, it has a cadence. That cadence really emboldens us, doesn't it? It steels our will, and it helps us find that resilience against literally any kind of adversity. Aliens from the sky, I don't care. If you say this creed enough
Independence
times,
Day right there.
Right, if you say this creed enough times, you're going to take on Thanos, right? Care if he's got the Infinity Gauntlet. You're going to take on Thanos. So with that all being said, Ally, I have a question for you. And also, Michael, I'll have you pick up the same question. What can spiritual seekers learn from the Soldier's Creed without inheriting this militarism, this really martial, tough, straight, stab you in the face approach?
The value of fortitude in your mission, knowing that you are part of a team. You're not an individual. Like, that's one of the first things up there. I am a member of a team. But like, looking at it from the perspective of, I need to have this kind of mentality that I'm a member of a team. I will put our mission first before my gossip, as an example. I'm not going to accept defeat when something happens. I'm going to continue on. I'm going to press. So I will never quit. I'm not going to leave behind people to pursue what I want, because I'm part of a team. They are part of my team. Knowing that you should be honing your skills for this mission. Physically, mentally tough. Like, that's fortitude. Like, all of this really speaks to fortitude, being professional, because that's what brings and draws people into you. Being able to deploy, engage, and if you wanted to say what's my enemy of whatever it is, the enemy is apathy. The enemy is homelessness. If you're part of a homeless shelter, the enemy's homelessness. It's not my people. I am helping them fight it. You put it in the perspective of, how does this relate to me? And it is so easy to do that.
Yeah. Great. Well said. Well said. Michael, same question to you.
I think some people in the spiritual community might have some resistance, that whole no war, all that kind of stuff. But when it comes down to it, if we can put these layers of preference aside, if we can put away these moral high grounds of the way things should be and look at the context of something instead of trying to find abstract meaning outside of that context, there's so much that could be gained from this, and I'm sure many people could find that, especially when so many people in the spiritual community right now are dying to find community, and a good community, not just people to come and hang out with. They want to find that family, that kin, that spiritual kin. And this type of creed very much speaks to forming that strong, close family that goes to war together. And it doesn't mean battling the people they're against. It means trying to come together for a same cause, for the same purpose, and to fight their mission. So, yeah, I definitely think people could take so much away from this within the spiritual communities.
Yeah. Actual righteousness.
Yeah.
Not self-righteousness. Which, and I've said this before, self-righteousness is a cancer to true virtue. The goal, virtue leads to righteousness, which is something completely different. And we see a lot of self-righteousness out there in the groups. See these wars all the time that they fight, but they say they don't want to fight. Christianity is this, or paganism is that. And, we get back to what Ally and I were talking about, and I don't remember if this was on the air or not, but we were talking about the Jedi community in the older days, where there was a lot of this, no, I'm right, which means everybody else is wrong. Well, it's not really true, because as she said, once we started to put pen to paper, it was like, we actually agree on a lot more than we realized. Hence the
Jedi Compass. Yeah.
The Jedi Compass, yeah. So, and even the Great Jedi Holocron, if you look through its 1,500 pages, if you printed that book out, you would have to get a forklift just to carry it around.
Yeah, that thing is enormous.
But when you start looking through that, it's like, we're not as far off as we think. It's just different personality clashes. So at its heart, the Soldier's Creed really talks to duty and loyalty and perseverance, right? Never quitting, and even protection. It shares that with the alternative code, because we take a vow when you recite this and you inherit it in your heart. You take a vow to never abandon a fallen comrade. You're promising to defend your nation or your family or your whatever, right?
It's almost like it complements an acronym called leadership.
For those who don't know. Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No. For those who don't know, what is that?
That is loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. If you want to look at it, it spells out leadership as an acronym. Well, not fully leadership. It's LDR and then ship.
Mm-hmm.
But those things were supposed to come together and pair off. Exactly. It reinforces it in a more poetic form.
Yeah, it works. And how this code integrates with us. We recognize that things like discipline is a form of freedom, right? And loyalty to virtue strengthens not just our resolve and our camaraderie, but our spirit. It strengthens us holistically, even. Especially if you follow this creed, you're keeping your equipment to include yourself in the best shape it can be, including your body, your mind. So to never quit, to remain steadfast in your truth, in the light, because darkness is always around the corner trying to tempt us to be scared or put us in despair. And to never leave a fallen comrade, that's I think that should be across the board. I think everybody would agree that's probably a good thing. But like I said earlier, and for our purposes, it's more like to embody that compassion, to lift up those who stumble, right? And to sit with them and to walk with them until they find their strength again. We do it all the time. Ally is a part of a group that actually literally comes together, and when there is, what is it called? The Jedi Response Team? Am I getting that right?
So Jedi Can has so it's sort of not, it's kind of been the spirit of it has been absorbed into other areas, because me and Rosalind have not been able to keep up with it specifically, but Rosalind and I are all over the place in this community. I don't know if people know that, but we are all over this place in this community. And so what we've taken is the spirit of that, and we've integrated it into International Jedi Federation and at Temple of the Jedi Order, we've both worked on putting that in there as a concept. And when things happen, when somebody comes in and they say, "Hey, we need some help with something," we're jumping forward and we're saying, "Okay, hey, we're going to do this kyber healing session," because right now that's where the Jedi are. We can do a meditation that helps focus people's unique healing traditions at one time to help encourage someone through their crisis. So that's something that we've taken from that. Surge, Southeast Regional Jedi, has kind of done, like, we want to step out, and we made our first effort during Hurricane Helene to step out and try to find, like, does somebody need help? Who can we go and help? And that was born from the concept of Jedi Can, as well as Heartland Jedi, actually, because Heartland Jedi, we used to be members of a canine search and rescue team. And so that spirit carried into Jedi Can, and some of the other things that Rosalind really wanted to work on was like getting Jedi on board to do different projects. The concepts are there, and we still have hope that we'll be able to get to a point where we can do that. But right now, the community is just not in a place to fully stand in for some of these different projects. And a lot of that's because we're all scattered to the four winds. Yeah. It's hard to, encourage people to come together for something if you have one person that really wants to do it, but they live in Britain and the other person lives in Utah.
Mm-hmm.
The most you can do is give some ideas on how people can raise money and send it to a fund, which was one of the things that Jedi Can did was, hey, when I was in California, we came up with, okay, the Indonesia tsunami, what you can do is you can go and pick up litter, get the plastic and the bottles, go turn that into cash, and then donate that to a fund. So they were just little ideas, but it's really hard to do that if you're on your own to like get the motivation to do that.
Right.
Or find the time.
That's why we need to invent teleporters.
I know. It would be so great.
One day. It would be
so great. Yes.
So, and the last code is a code that 3 soldiers, as you said, one who is with us today, you, help write.
Yeah, 3 soldiers, and there was 2 other people that were present. They were not soldiers, but there were 3 soldiers on the team, and then we had actually a Marine help weigh in on like some of the structure of it too. So we had some conversation with other people, but primarily it was us. So this one is the Heartland Jedi Creed, created in 2013 because I couldn't stand there is no creed or code. So whatever. I'm a little bit of a rebel. It goes, right. I am a Jedi, a guardian of peace. I acknowledge all life is sacred. I choose to serve others. I use my training to defend and protect, never to assault. I will present a professional demeanor. I will be mindful of my thoughts and control my actions. I know myself and am aware of my surroundings. I will approach all situations holistically. I will seek knowledge with the understanding of self-ignorance. I will find peace in the midst of a storm. It is through understanding of the Force that I am transformed.
That's beautiful.
It is a good one.
This is always going to be my favorite creed ever. And not just because I put it together. Like, if somebody had written this and gave it to me, it would always be my favorite.
So I felt the emotion while you read it, just how much it's a part of you.
It has a great focus. And since you created it, you could, correct me if I'm wrong, but this really focuses on peace and service and transformation. And to me, it seems like it's a really good counterbalance to the issues people may have with the Soldier's Creed. It's a great counterbalance to some of those problems, and maybe that's by design.
Yeah,
because you're not gonna find a bunch of hippies that are gonna be like, yes, crush our enemies. They're not going to really be hip with that. But this really does a good way. It does a good job of counterbalancing that stuff. The kind of the ugly language, we would say.
Well, it really offers the air of diplomacy where it's let's find solutions instead of try to just go for the throat. It's very much let's go through this with a lot of, like you said, holistically. The more we can try to find an approach to this that's going to resolve it instead of something that's just going to take it over, which is huge because that's one of the first parts of this creed.
I want to just say how much I appreciate that you brought up holistically. And the reason why is because I have so many people that when I presented this to them, now holistically was not my word. That was Mary Coleman's word. But I actually originally had a problem with it because I had a misunderstanding of what the word holistic meant. I sat there, I went around, did everything I could to get service on my phone. And I think I actually stole Andy's phone because he was the only one that had service. We were doing this in the middle of Land Between the Lakes, and my phone service just sucked. It would not work. And he had Verizon. So I was like, give me your phone. I'm going to look this word up because I was like, where is she coming from when she says this? And from my perspective, I saw it as the holistic healing method that is debunked. And then I saw what it actually meant. And I was like, yeah, we're going to keep that word. But almost everybody has come back and they've said that word needs to change in order for us to adopt it. So I appreciate so much that you latched onto that word and you were like, holistically, and you treated it with the respect that it deserves.
Very much so. That's beautiful. That you took the time to actually figure out the meaning behind it. And I get, because I know when I used to hear the term holistically, I always thought voodoo, black magic, whatever. Like it always seemed sort of taboo hearing that word. But there's such a depth to finding solutions outside of our normal paradigms that can allot us so much more wisdom and approaches to situations, because we all operate from these blueprints that we grew up with, that we have. And it's very hard for us to step back and be like, you know what, maybe my blueprint is incorrect. Maybe my understanding is faulty. And it doesn't mean that you don't know things or understand things, but with a little extra perspective, you could gain a whole new level of awareness. Especially when you're dealing with areas of conflict or disagreement, or just any of the situations this creed would play to, because when we approach things holistically, we're not afraid to think out of the box or challenge our own paradigms.
Everything we seek to do here is for the total being. You know, if any of you have been listening to the show the last couple of episodes, you'll know that I ignored part of my being, and I'm paying the price right now. And now I have to fix it, right? And I'm talking physically. So, and we won't get into that, but this code is very holistic. And like I said, I just can't get over how well it counterbalances the perceived negatives of some of these others, right? I mean, and you could take this code and you could say, I am a guardian of peace. I acknowledge that all life is sacred. You could put this into your life, no matter what flavor of popcorn you eat, right? It doesn't matter, because it's so well written and it has a perfect cadence to it. It's probably the greatest thing you ever created, Ally.
Oh, well, thank you.
No,
it was a team effort, though.
You've created a lot of cool stuff. But like, look, so like as an example, instead of a rallying for the spirit of war, right? Like ready to, what makes the grass grow green, Ally, right? It calls the spirit and your mind and you to prepare your body for peace. It emphasizes service and humility. I love it for that, because that's what we teach, right, Michael?
Yep.
It emphasizes mindfulness and transformation through your service and through your work and through your, through the Force, I guess. I know, and we won't get into this, Ally, because there are lots of interpretations of how the Force.
There are a lot of interpretations. And that's the beauty of the community. I mean, I literally just did a class on that for Temple of the Jedi Order this week during their summer camp, was the value and the freedom to define the Force for yourself.
Yeah. Well, I'll always stick with this. And Michael knows this because I've taught him this. If the Force is infinite, then there must be room for infinite number of interpretations. That's all I'll say. There has to be. It's not really a great paradox, because there isn't one.
I mean, I'll be honest, I don't even think we can fathom it. to the extent of fully understanding it to any degree.
Right.
And that's the value of the last line in this.
Yes.
Through understanding, because you are pursuing understanding the Force as you see it. You are transformed. I am transformed.
Exactly. And maybe you change your mind by the time you get to the end of the code, so then you're transformed that way too.
Yeah.
I love this creed because it's to me it seems like more like an invitation. It's not a sharpen yourself. It's an invitation to see life as sacred and to choose service and defend without aggression and right to be professional and mindful. You know, all these ideas were always probably implied or at least thought of when these smaller codes were made, but they don't do a good job of defining those, do they? So I like these codes and creeds and these oaths and things like that kind of help define things a little bit. Those are my favorite kind, because then you don't have people coming at you from all different directions saying, well, it really means this or it really means that. Well, actually, it means what it says. Very simple. Very easy to follow. It's not like you have to get a doctorate in philosophy just to understand what it's trying to tell you.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And that's one of the reasons I did it. Or I went to them and I said, listen, I want to do this. Can we do this? Please, can we do this? And they were like, I mean, you're asking, sure, let's do it. Let's go for it. Let's see what happens. This is what turned out. And it's so beautiful because like they're invitations to, so I like the invitation, but I also like that I am saying and reminding to myself. So like you have affirmations at these shows, but this was something that while you could use these as affirmations, I see them as reminders of why I joined the path in the first place. What I want from my community. That's why it's written this way. That's why it's I statements. The I statements are powerful because I am owning them and I am telling myself back. This is the value of chanting. Like I love chants. It's one of the things that I teach in my meditations is like there's a dark side to chanting because words have power, but also that chanting can be very transformative if you allow it to do so. And I said, I'm like, I can remind myself of these and I can chant these. And actually, I am a Jedi, a guardian of peace is part of another meditation form that we have. It involves a lightsaber. It's a lightsaber form that me and Sophia and Darcy all put together. They put together the physical movements, and then I was the one that came up with the chant. And Satoonis threw in one of the movements in there is from Satoonis. But like it starts out with using the first line in this. I am a Jedi, a guardian of peace. Because it is reminding me that is what it is. This is, and everything follows is how I do that, how I am a guardian of peace. But then the last line is what encourages me to become that by studying the Force.
I'm glad you said that because I have homework for you guys.
Homework.
Not you guys, but you guys, if you dare. I was going to ask this at the beginning of the show, and I kind of cheated because I kind of wrote out my own when I thought about this question I'm going to ask you guys. So I cheated. Sorry. I was the one that wrote it. If someone were to sum up your life's values in a single creed, what would it say?
That's a big question.
Do your best.
Yeah.
Or defer to later. I'll make you say it at the beginning of next show, though.
Well, I mean, it's already here. This is what it is.
Oh, I see how it is. This was just a total setup.
13.
No, but it's I didn't actually want you to answer. It's just something to ponder, though. It's something to think about. If someone were to sum up your life's codes, or I'm sorry, if someone were to sum up your life's values in a single creed or code or oath, what would it say? It gives us a lot to think about, right? It really brings us to what do I want people to remember me by, or how they remember me by, or what legacy am I leaving? So it's a really good thing to ponder. And I ponder this kind of thing a lot, and my code changes, my creed changes, my oath changes as I grow. So it's just a kind of a fun little thing to think about. And I just want to give you guys a chance to share your last thoughts with everybody. Any final thoughts?
I love your homework. I absolutely love your homework today because I think so many people wander aimlessly when it comes to having personal codes that they want to follow. I think a lot of us have lofty ideas of what that looks like, and it can be detrimental when we commit to something and then act against it. It ruins self-trust, it ruins our relationship with ourselves, and the more we can define what it is that is our values, that is our core beliefs that we want to embody, the more we can walk in alignment with that, especially when we have it written in such a way. So I challenge anyone listening to this to practice that exercise. Write down a creed for yourself. It doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to be poetic. But let it be a representation of who you want to be and what you want to stand for. And look at it daily. Reference it. Embody it. Because that's how you make true change and commitment to being the best version of yourself. Not by lofty ideas, but by commanding it of yourself. You know, we talk all the time about how whatever we tell ourselves is what slowly gets ingrained in our subconscious. That's how way you can start embodying these things you want to start living by.
Well said.
Yeah, and I like that too. But I also want to invite people to understand that it could evolve. You have to look at it from the perspective of when I came into the community, it was 2002. In 2002, I was ingrained, I was in this Jedi community that talked about all kinds of philosophy. They gave me opportunity to really saturate in what my feelings were about different things. And then I had, the military. A year later, I went into the military, and that's when I got exposed to the Soldier's Creed. But by then, I had gotten out in 2008. I had gotten out of Iraq in 2008. And then in 2011 is when I got out of the military. So 2013 comes around, we start writing this code. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It was 2012. So 10 years later, after I had been involved in all of this, that's when I started writing this. But that doesn't mean that, I couldn't have changed my mind on certain things if I had not been really thinking about it. So you might write this code now, but don't give yourself the peace to allow that code later on to be like, wait, that's not really what I meant when I was trying to put that. I've really given it thought now, months from now, years from now. Let me rewrite that and be okay with that. Give yourself that grace because you just haven't studied it well enough to know. That would be my other piece of advice. But definitely take Michael's advice and have that thing posted somewhere where you're looking at it daily.
Yeah.
So you can really saturate in it.
Well, I want to just add on top of what you just added on there because you're so right. I mean, we die 1,000 times in a lifetime because we're constantly becoming a new. Everything we go through, every person we interact with, every such obstacle we have to overcome, we are constantly evolving, and so does our values. So, yes, embody this. Look at it every day, but also don't be afraid to let this creed change with you as you grow and evolve. Because it may start off as I'm not going to lie, steal, and cheat, and you'll get to a place where that's just automatic. Then it's going to be I will stand up for those who are struggling. I am going to speak my mind to those who are boisterous, whatever it is. But let these evolve with you. Let this be as malleable as you allow yourself to be and meet yourself where you're at. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, don't be afraid to change. It's literally one of your duties here, one of your responsibilities. And I do have an extra piece of homework. Thought you were getting away with just one today? I got to give you something else because we didn't have affirmations or journaling prompts. Ally, they know how much I love journalers. So if you were to write your own creed today in this moment, 10 lines or less, okay, what would it say? What values would you want spoken aloud each morning to remind you of who you truly are? So they're pretty much the same thing. Now I'm just making you write it down. So
don't just think about it, write it down.
Just think about it.
You know what? I now teach people how to drive. And I'm going to tell you, one of the things in our classroom portion that I say is that there was a study published by Frontier. And they showed that if you write things down, not type them. Trust me, I am a typer. All right. I am a typer. If you write them down by hand, it increases your ability to remember. All these different things snap off, but your memory snaps off even more so than typing or other things that you could do. So definitely that writing down is very important because it's going to help you remember, this is what I said. It becomes very, very real at that point.
And do it once a year. Make it fun thing. Do it at the beginning of the year. Do it at the new year. Do it at the spring equinox, whatever. Whatever the new year is for you, it's a good time to reflect on the past year and see where you've changed. That's why I love journals so much, so that we know where we're at, where we need to go. Well, somebody's got. Are they coming for you, Michael? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, soon enough here. I'm waiting for the knock at the door.
They only knock twice, and they usually knock with a boot. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you, Ally, for hanging out with us today. Michael, thank you.
For having me.
Thank you so much, Michael, for being here. Not just for me, but for them too. You guys need to thank Michael. He's had a rough day. He's still got his shirt on and stuff. We love you guys so much. With love and gratitude, Ad Lucem.
Ad Lucem.
Ad Lucem.